Hi, my name is Thomas Fermore, and I chose to use stress management as the topic for this project. So why did I choose stress management? Well, for me, stress has been very important or relative to my life from a very young age. I used to kind of struggle with stress, whether it be academically, sports related, and just everyday life. And as a kid, I found it very difficult to take tests, for example, and I would stress a lot, and it would end up hindering my ability to be successful or doing the best of my ability. And when I also read the chapter of stress management in the book, I thought it was very interesting, and I wanted to know more, and so I thought this was the perfect opportunity to do a little bit more research. So first, I think it's important to understand the importance of stress itself, because stress itself, at a moderate dose, is actually very beneficial. It gives you that energetic boost, and it increases your self awareness, increases your focus, and in game time, with a little bit of stress, you're doing that much better. You got that much a little bit more energetic level, and it helps you for sure. But when it becomes negative is when it takes you a little bit past that level, and it's a little bit too jittery, a little bit too frantic, and that's when stress is very negative. And I think it's important to consider the total stress load, which consists of your lifestyle stress plus your emotional stress plus your training stress plus your competition stress. And when you add all these things up, you can kind of evaluate your total stress and where they lie in different categories. So going more in depth, I'll talk about the types of stress. First of all, I'm talking about lifestyle stress, which is very, money sense. If you live a stable life, you're gonna have less stress. You're not gonna be worrying about being able to pay the bills every month, and you're gonna be able to like live in your house, not lose it. And it's just that added, that less stress if you live a stable life. And next type of stress is emotional stress. Unfortunately, the stress level is very hard to deal with. It can consist of things like breaking up with your significant other, or losing an animal. I mean, the emotions that come out in these scenarios is very hard to predict, and it's very hard to cope with. But hopefully, if you use some of the techniques that we'll be discussing later in this presentation, it might make it a little bit easier to deal with. So types of stress continued. We got training stress, which is it's important to be very progressive. You don't want to load everything at once. You want to be very gradual. For example, I do a lot of weight training, and I like to be very progressive with what I do. Every week I look at kind of what I'm doing, and I want to increase something, whether it be an extra rep in a set, or adding a little bit more weight. I just want to constantly improve. And so another thing I learned, which is very interesting when I was doing this research, was the idea that quantity must be perfected before quality, and it's important to just be able to go the distance before thinking about the quality of what you're doing, because it's impossible to kind of perfect both at the same time. Another type of stress is competition stress, and you might be thinking, like, how can you limit that, or how can you control that? Well, you can by choosing the difficulty of things such as like tournaments you want to join, and by joining kind of a lower tournament and then working your way up, you'll be dealing with different types of stress levels, and hopefully if you win, you'll become more confident in each stress level and be able to deal with higher types of stress in no time. And also the idea that failure it's a very important lesson with stress. I mean, personally, when I first dealt with failure, it felt really hard, and I didn't know how to deal with it. But once I overcame it, I knew how to deal with it in the future, and it just helps reduce stress if you know how to deal with it. Okay, ways to manage stress. So there's various ways, and one of these is physical relaxation. More specifically, there's progressive muscle relaxation, which is when you kind of tense up all your muscles for several seconds and then release for several seconds, and it sends kind of a relaxation aura across your body. Another self-directed relaxation, which is a little bit more advanced, when you tense up a certain muscle group and then you for several seconds and then you release for several seconds, and it's another kind of relaxation technique. Another one is deep breathing, which is one of my favorites because I kind of like the meditation idea, which is, long breaths in and out. And it's really good for relaxing your entire body. And then there's biofeedback, which is when you kind of analyze your heart rate and other kind of data information kind of like that, and use it kind of to determine your stress level and then what you should do next to kind of reduce or increase if you need it. Another way to manage stress is imagery, and I never used imagery that much prior to reading this textbook that we had for this class, and I just realized how beneficial it was for so many professional athletes. So I've started using it for tennis and weightlifting, and it's actually been beneficial for me so far. And for those of you who don't know, imagery is defined as using mental images to relax your mind or be more successful in certain activities. There's various types, but some of them include neuromuscular, which is when you envision yourself performing a certain movement, and it in turn kind of tenses up those certain muscles you'd be using successfully, and so that next time you do it, your muscles kind of know how to tense up in real life. And then there's also cognitive imagery, which is when you plan out an exact scenario in your head that you may not have encountered, and so when you encounter it in real life, you'll know how to deal with it better. Another type of imagery has to do with confidence building, which is if you envision yourself as being very confident, always succeeding at hitting that serve or throwing that touchdown pass. When you encounter it in real life, you'll be that more positive, and usually when you're positive, you're able to do things more successfully. Another way to manage stress is goal setting. It's very bit by bit, increment by increment. You're dealing with very discrete things, and when you succeed at one thing, you'll move on to the next, and it builds confidence, and it helps reduce stress in total. It's really good because you're focusing on a specific task at once, and you can structure your training around these specific tasks, make sure you achieve them, and then restructure your training around a different task. It's also important to make things challenging but achievable, because you want to build that confidence, you want to keep going and set new goals. And it's important to have a mixture of both long-term goals, such as after the end of a season or multiple seasons or maybe even several years, and mix it with a bunch of short-term goals, because when you complete these short-term goals, your confidence builds, and you become better and better and better, and then you hit your long-term goal, and you can set another one, and it keeps you moving more short-term goals, and it kind of rolls over from there. So for my interview, I interviewed my sister because she's actually a student at the chiropractic school called Palmer University, and she has about 1.5 years left, and after that she'll be a doctor and a professional chiropractor. And chiropractors, for those of you that don't know so much about the body, and they're able to take care of you if your neck's sore or you're out of place, and they're able to readjust it and align your body in right positions, and it really does relax your body afterwards. Because I've been going to it to a chiropractor for about 8 years now, and I strongly suggest it. But anywho, when I was talking to my sister about stress and stress management, she had a few words to say on that topic, including how bad stress can be for muscle tension and pain, and it can cause headaches, it can cause sleep problems, just to name a few things that she said. And also there's ways that you can reduce stress, such as dieting and exercises are top ways to do it, because one, they're good for you, and two, they're good for your stress levels, so why wouldn't you not want to do that? And it helps reduce your cortisol levels and lowers your blood pressure, so in turn it lowers stress. More stuff that you can do include meditation, which is one of my favorites, very relaxing and deep breathing. Another one is hobbies, because when you're doing something that you enjoy, your stress levels are low. Also, just being in good social environments, being around friends that you have fun with, because you don't worry about the stressful things in life when you're with your buddies. And so how did this research affect me? Well, I'm thinking that this research I've done will be very useful for me in the future, even now. Because it doesn't have to be just for my job, which I expect to be very stressful, but just everyday life. Personally, I'm a computer engineering student at Cal Poly, and I know that in the future I'll be having very tough days at the job, or I'm going to be very stressed because my boss is mad at me, or I don't think I can complete a certain kind of assignment and stuff, and these techniques will just help me, you know, take a little breather. And just in general, stress can come from everywhere. It doesn't have to be just your job, it doesn't have to be school, it doesn't have to be sports. It can be like little tasks like forgetting mayonnaise at the store, you know. It's a little bit of stress there because you're like, oh shoot, I have to drive all the way back to the store and all that stuff. And I mean, if you know these techniques, it's just a little bit more beneficial. Here's my works cited, and that's it. Thank you for listening.